And now I want to tell you about some of the people responsible for this mess we are in currently. You're not going to believe the pictures I'm going to show you right now, but this is the truth in Telangana. Ladies and gentlemen, please look at the images on your screen. These are images of campaign political rallies that were held yesterday and in the days gone by, the last few days, by the TRS, by the BJP, by the Congress, as well as by the left parties. These are crowded campaign rallies that have happened at a time when India has posted its highest ever COVID cases day on day, with over 3.6 lakh cases on each day over the last couple of days. And imagine if I tell you this, Telangana has actually breached all previous records and has just today posted its highest ever case number. That is the situation in Telangana, and this is what the Election Commission in the state has permitted netas to do. Netas, of course, have no scruples. They've got no principles. They will only go after the voters because there is an election to be had. The BJP had wanted this election to be deferred, but the election took place, and you're seeing these huge crowds. The numbers will speak for themselves. The infections will speak for themselves. While this monster COVID wave is sweeping India, netagiri of the most irresponsible kind has been on in Telangana, as you just saw. Elections are being held in 2 municipal corporations and 5 municipalities in the state, including Warangal. Social distancing gone. Masks gone. COVID norms completely out of the window for these rallies and roadshows and door-to-door campaigns ahead of Friday's voting. Take a look. Every single party in the state has blood on its hands.
If there is one class that's not scared by the coronavirus, it is our netas and their supporters. While a monster COVID wave described by many as tsunami is sweeping India now, it is the netagiri as usual in Telangana, where elections are being held in 2 municipal corporations and 5 municipalities. The BJP, TRS and the Congress are all holding public rallies, road shows, door-to-door campaigns ahead of Friday's voting. The Election Commission has rejected demands by the BJP and the Congress to postpone polls. It had ordered strict adherence to COVID-19 regulations, but the order is torn to shreds.
And what am I supposed to do? Should I fight elections or not? Shouldn't I fight elections? It is the duty of the Election Commission to look into it.
There is absolutely no social distancing. Watching these visuals, the world might wonder, Telangana is blessed with super immunity. But that is not the deal. The state has now recorded 10,122 new infections with 52 deaths in just the last 24 hours. Telangana also, like many other states, is running from pillar to post in search of oxygen, beds and medicines.
Like all other states, Telangana too witnessing a sharp surge in COVID-19 cases, and political campaign done by all parties are only adding more numbers into it. While opposition parties, including BJP and MIM, questioned Election Commission, the poll body is firm to complete the entire election process by April 30th. With camera person Damodar, Ashish in Hyderabad for India Today.
Now, all the political parties will blame the Election Commission because they say the Election Commission didn't listen to us and they refused to defer this municipal elections. But all of these political parties also held crowded roadshows and rallies. They did not campaign, even if it's possible to campaign with COVID norms in check. But take a look at the timing of these campaign rallies. Look at the numbers in Telangana right now. The COVID crisis has led to a record surge in Telangana right now when these rallies are happening. In the last 24 hours, 10,122 total new cases. 69,221 is the total active cases in the state so far. Total recoveries and total deaths are those numbers. But the fact is, with 10,122 cases, it is the largest spike that Telangana has ever seen. And it is during this large spike that these political parties have been allowed to campaign in this murderous manner. Remember, the Madras High Court has already called the Election Commission. They've used the word murder to describe the activities of the Election Commission. And there you have it on your screens right now. Murder in full motion. Ashish with me live from Hyderabad on this story. Ashish, break it down for us. Some of the opposition parties had asked for this municipal election to be deferred. Why didn't the Election Commission listen?
So, Shiv, if we talk about the entire election process, the process started on 15th of April after notification announced by State Election Commissioner Parth Sarthi, the principal opposition, we can say the emerging principal opposition, Bharatiya Janata Party, it on 21st of April approached to Governor of Telangana, Tamilisai Soundararajan. They submitted a memorandum asking and requesting Governor of Telangana to intervene into this entire episode and requested her to ensure that this election process get postponed because cases are rising. That's what they mentioned in the memorandum. On the very other hand, other political parties, Congress also, they were also kind of reluctant with the election timing. They also, though requested Election Commission to postpone the election, but they started campaigning. TRS, the ruling party, they were campaigning, and like campaigning was ending yesterday. So all political parties, all major political parties, whether it's ruling TRS, whether it's BJP, whether it's Congress, and even MIM, Asaduddin Owaisi, when we asked to Asaduddin Owaisi that why political parties are gathering crowd and campaigning at this time when cases are rising in Telangana, he clearly blamed the Election Commission, said that Election Commission should take the responsibility. If they have notified, political parties have no other option but to campaign and canvass for the election.
No,
so clearly everybody is blaming everybody, but at the end of the day it's the rising numbers of cases and fatality which is the big concern.
I am not going to sit here and give political parties a free pass, because even though the Election Commission is the prime entity here that should be held responsible, and heads should roll at the State Election Commission for even allowing this election to take place and not being able to enforce protocols for such crowds. When you campaign, there are going to be crowds like this. But can the political parties wash their hands of this entire issue? Ashish, thank you very much for that. Let's bring the netas in, the representatives of the political parties that have overseen these gross violations in the state of Telangana. Sravan Dasoju, Congress spokesperson; Krishna Sagar, BJP spokesperson. The TRS, very, very interestingly, has ducked coming onto my show. They refuse to join our show, but we have with us Nitish V, who's a social activist and a TRS supporter. Krishna Sagar Rao, I'd like to start with you. I do know that your party and a couple of the other parties had asked formally for these elections to be deferred. That didn't happen, and we've seen huge, I mean, frighteningly large campaign crowds, including by the BJP. One of the biggest was actually by the BJP happening. How do you explain this? Because now there is only a blame game going on.
See, Shiv, I understand we are in the midst of a huge tsunami, the spike of COVID-19. However, the occupational hazard in a democracy is that the politics have to continue because the elections have to continue. If the elections are not called by the Election Commission of India, the political parties have no role to go out and seek votes in the middle of the pandemic.
But in this way,
the ECI is the independent body, as you know. I'm not doing any blame game, but the state had an opportunity to defer the elections by 5 months because the expiry of the local bodies is still due for 5 months. So why did the TRS party taken up this urgency of conducting these local body elections? These are not very important big elections. They're not assembly or general elections either. These are local body corporation elections. So it is the TRS party which has a political agenda to ensure the elections get conducted fast, because they don't want post-May 2, if there is a rise of Bharatiya Janata Party wave across the country after the 5 election results, they don't want these elections to be impacted by that mandate.
Okay.
So it's very simple that KCR's game plan of having his elections at the time he wants has been driven by the State Election Commission. And unfortunately, we have unfortunately, our pleas went completely unheard.
Okay, Nitish V, the BJP says the BJP and the AIMIM were at least two parties that had asked for these elections to be deferred. There was still 5 months to go for these, for these offices to be held. What was the hurry in holding this election? How can the TRS support holding this election at this time?
See, their excuse, obviously, because I don't want to give their excuse to you, but they would say that SEC is an independent body and it will take its own course of conducting elections.
Let Nitish answer. The TRS has refused to come on my show, but let Nitish answer. Let's see what he says.
No, what Mr. Krishna Sagar Rao is trying to steal my answer. Am I audible, Shiv?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Krishna Sagar Rao is trying to steal my answer, actually. Yeah, I'm very much shocked and astonished with the statement where he's trying to blame the election commission for siding with a political party. That may be the case that BJP is trying to play. Any day the election is happening, TRS is going to win both the municipal corporations and all the 5 municipalities, whether it's today, after 1 year or after 2 years. So
that's not the point,
we don't have a say, we don't have any urgency as a political party. But as the independent functioning of the election commission, the jurisdiction, it stays in the matter. It is the matter of the election commission's jurisdiction to decide the dates and the timeline of the polling.
You are saying exactly what Krishna Sagar Rao said you would say.
Consent. Shiv, the state government only gave the consent. We are ready to conduct the election.
No, but what I want to know is why. What I want to know is why, Nitish. Nitish. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. 10,600 cases in Telangana, highest ever in the state in the last 24 hours. Let me, Mr. Sravan Dasoju of the Congress party has put out some figures right now, which I want to read out because we have corroborated them. These are the COVID figures. These are the. I will let you complete. I will let you complete. Just hear me out. These are the figures. These are the COVID figures in the places of Telangana that are going to the elections right now. You have Warangal Urban, which on 3rd to 9th April had 435 cases. 19th to 25th April, it had 1,671 cases. Siddipet, 273 cases early April, now 1,400 cases. Rangareddy district, 1,059 cases earlier, now 3,374 cases. The numbers have skyrocketed in the very places where these elections have been allowed to take place, and the TRS is saying, we are okay with the elections.
No, Shiv, I would like to contradict with this fact here, because there is a strong spike in cases in districts such as Karimnagar also, where there are no elections going on. In districts of Adilabad also,
of course,
all over the state, Maharashtra, where elections are not going on. Please let me complete. The state government has given consent to the election commission, to the state election commission, in the month of January, that they are ready to conduct the elections. And in the month of January, there were not COVID cases as high as the volume that we are seeing. We hadn't had experience in the second wave.
Nitish, these sound like, Nitish, forgive me, these sound like excuses. These sound like excuses. You know, when you have a humanitarian disaster in the country, are you trying to say, sorry, we have already taken these decisions, now we don't have any choice at all? Sravan Dasoju, I want to bring you in. Who do you blame for this? Sravan Dasoju, who do you blame for this? Because even your party has held campaign rallies. Yes, Sravan Dasoju.
My party has not. BJP has held the rallies. Our leaders have refrained from public meetings.
Let the Congress leader speak.
Okay.
Shivji, the culprit here is the TRS government and as well as the state election commissioner. March 16th is the tenure got over of these local municipalities, March 16th. And on 15th April, the first time in the history, Election Commission has issued notification and schedule on the same day to complete the election on 30th. On the from 15th onwards, Congress party is raising the red flag that these elections should not be held. We have been tweeting, we have been making representations, we have been writing letters. In fact, based on the PCC president's letter, the governor has actually called for explanation from the Election Commission. Unfortunately, political greed is paramount importance to TRS, then the people interest. So therefore, State Election Commission has colluded with TRS and therefore together have conducted these elections. In fact, India Today has quoted that only BJP and MIM has asked.
No, also Congress.
No,
also Congress.
Congress party has asked for deferring these elections.
No, Sravanji, if you see our full story, it mentions Congress also.
We wrote letters, we tweeted, we requested, we made appeals, we made dharnas. In spite of it, State Election Commission is completely sold to TRS, and unfortunately, because of May 2nd, they don't want, once these 5 state results come, they don't want to have a camouflage of those election results on the municipal polls, so they want to complete these elections before the May 2nd results come out. So therefore, BJP and TRS have colluded with the State Election Commission and comfortably
Nitish,
and people are suffering.
Both the BJP and the Congress, you very rarely see the BJP and the Congress agree. But on this issue, even though all of your parties have held crowded rallies, and I will come to that next, because all sorts of excuses are being made, like, occupational hazard, and, once it is being allowed, then we have to go out and seek votes. I understand that. I understand in politics, the game has to go on. But in a humanitarian disaster, can that happen? But the buck has to stop with the TRS on this. And both the BJP and the Congress say, if the TRS had put its foot down and said, no, we are not ready for this election right now, this nonsense would not have happened.
Shiv, I'm very sorry to hear this coming from you, but the State Election Commissioner is not a member of TRS, or he doesn't function according to the...
You can't hide behind that, Nitish. If the TRS government has said we are ready to hold the election, why didn't the TRS say we are not ready to hold the election?
In the hands of TRS today.
Talk over each other. Shiv,
that is totally wrong. That is totally
Krishna Sagar,
absurd.
I'm coming to you after Nitish answers.
That is totally absurd. That is totally wrong. Shiv, there are 3 things that I want to clearly clarify. One, the entire process of this election is not in the hands of TRS party. It is in the hands of State Election Commission.
I'm coming to you.
Which follows the guidelines and directions of Central Election Commission, which is in the hands of Bharatiya Janata Party. 2, the BJP spokesperson, Mr. Krishna Sagar Rao. Why he is even speaking on the show, I don't really understand. Because he and his party are primarily responsible for this havoc.
You can't hide behind that. You can't hide behind that, Nitish. The reason why you can't hide behind that is because the TRS has given its own considered view in the matter. And your official view is we are ready to hold the elections.
The Telangana state government.
Why?
The Telangana state government.
Why has the Telangana state government said we are ready to hold this election? Krishna Sagar Rao, yes. Let Krishna Sagar Rao rebut you, then you can answer it.
The first week of January. First week of January, when the second wave of
everything has changed since then, sir. This is not some immovable train that cannot be stopped. Yes, Krishna Sagar Rao.
Please restrain this man from shouting and howling here. He's shouting and howling because he doesn't have any substance. And he's not official spokesperson of the party. I don't know why he's so over-enthusiastic about...
Does it refrain me from the right to speak?
Let's not speak over each other. Let Krishna Sagar Rao finish. I'll give you time to rebut him.
You can't abuse me, Mr. Sagar. Right.
See, Shiv, the constitutional provision under 74 Article Amendment, the corporation's elections can be notified by the recommendation of the state government. So the state government, if it has recommended in January, as the person here is saying, the so-called analyst, who is actually fighting for TRS, then the government very well, after the spike in the COVID-19, can pull back that recommendation. So he's talking without any substance and full of ignorance. See, state government and SEC works in tandem, and the recommendation can be pulled back. They didn't do because KCR has very clear agenda of winning every single election, not giving any space for opposition to even rise. And when he has 5 months, what is the urgency? We have appealed to the governor.
Okay.
We have appealed to the state election commissioner. We have appealed to the TRS chief and the chief minister to, for the humanitarian sake, for this COVID-19, pull back and let's have the elections after 3-4 months, after something, after this thing levels down. But he doesn't listen. He himself is going through, we wish him well, we wish him recovery. He and his entire family is going through COVID-19 now, but he doesn't want to wait till the entire state probably goes through COVID-19. Till then, he is not going to rest.
We wish all our netas who are suffering from COVID the very best of health, especially at a time like this. But this is the worst kind of cynical politics at play here. Sravan Dasoju, Nitish, before I come to you, I want to bring Sravanji back in on this. Sravanji, what could the TRS have done? Do you agree with what Krishna Sagar Rao has said, that this could easily have been changed even if it was at the last minute, given the huge circumstances being faced by the country. There are no excuses for continuing with this election.
Sir, I think TRS government should have certainly requested the State Election Commissioner not to conduct these elections, because this election pertains to almost about 15 lakh population.
Yeah.
Not only the campaigning, but on 30th again, 9,000 government employees have to conduct these elections, and 11 lakh people have to stand in the queues and then cast their vote. Not only the campaign. So considering the kind of spike of COVID cases, the government should have straight away recommended to cancel or postpone these elections. And State Election Commissioner could have behaved like a human being. Rather than being enslaved to TRS, he himself could have taken a decision. People's lives are important, politics are not important. Let me go on record. The State Election Commissioner has become a puppet in the hands of TRS. And let me also tell you something. Krishna Sagar Rao is saying that, that TRS government is not listening. What is it prevented Krishna Sagar Rao's government to influence upon the Chief Election Commissioner and then make a request to the State Election Commissioner?
No, this is also a very valid point. Before I come to that point, and remember, right at the outset, I said, nobody can make any excuses. Sure, you can say that the act of politics has to continue, politics has to continue. But this helplessness. See how this helplessness has been enunciated politically by another player in Telangana, namely Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi. Let's just listen into what he said. Then I'm coming to you, Krishna Sagar Rao.
What am I supposed to do? Should I fight elections or not? Shouldn't I fight elections? It is the duty of the Election Commission to look into it.
Krishna Sagar Rao, no excuses can be made when people are dying in droves, including in Telangana. That is the point. How can this be a dilemma? Yes, you are saying that this is up to the Election Commission, but should some political parties not have taken a principled stand in the matter? You yourself are saying these are not very important elections. Why didn't one of your parties take a principled stand and said, we will not campaign in this election? You could have gone to town and shouted from the rooftops and said, we will not campaign in this election, just to set an example.
See, Shiv, that's not as simple as you state, because if you don't campaign, you're not contesting. And if you're not contesting, Sravan will say that we are friends with TRS. That's very easy for the opposition party to say. Now, Sravan is a good friend. He understands the legal provisions available. CEC has no role to play on SEC. SEC is an independent state-driven election commission. So the Central Election Commission cannot tell State Election Commission to withdraw from notification. The only person who can say is the Chief Minister of Telangana, KCR. And he didn't say it. In fact, he wanted to rush it and finish it off in 15 to 12 days in the midst of the COVID-19 explosion.
Shravanji, the voters...
I wanted to.
You can rebut that while I downwind the debate. But Shravanji, I just want to say that the electorate and voters, you know this better than me, sir, they are going to be looking at all of you and looking at all your parties and saying things have completely changed in the last few weeks. We don't care for people's political compulsions. We don't care that you feel the need to campaign when there's an election. When people are trying to save each other, people don't know where to get oxygen from, and then they see campaigning taking place in this place. Everything has changed. How do you justify this to voters?
We are all culprits. I'm sorry to tell you, whosoever have campaigned are culprits. We are also equally responsible to have campaigned. But the unfortunate is, the politics have become first, then the people, unfortunately.
Yes.
Now, and all of us are responsible for it. But the foremost importantly, the Chief Minister and the State Election Commissioner could have been a little more sensitive and then put aside political greed and then postpone these elections, despite there is an opportunity of 5 more months, even if there is any constitutional violation of obligation to conduct the elections in time. Unfortunately, the State Election Commissioner has become a puppet in the hands of Mr. KCR, and according to the tunes of KCR, the State Election Commission has danced, and then today we are all facing this problem.
Nitish,
now, coming back to what Krishna Sagar ji said, BJP also is comfortable to have these elections. because somewhere along BJP also seriously not demanded for the postponement of these elections, because the TRS wanted these elections to be completed before the May 2nd results are announced, because after the results are announced there may be some kind of impact on the ULB elections or ULB elections, so therefore they wanted these elections to be conducted before, and BJP for some reason has not seriously demanded. I mean, there may be a constitutional limitation.
Okay, I don't want to. Okay, I still don't want to get into the. I still don't want to get into the CEC SEC issue because ultimately on the ground in Telangana, the TRS, the ball was also in the TRS's hand. If the TRS had put its foot down and said, no, we are not in a position, all our resources are being occupied in the fight against COVID during this humanitarian disaster, we do not want to hold the elections at this time, the State Election Commission would have possibly compiled and deferred the elections to a little later. So I agree with all of our panelists today, Nitish, when they say that the TRS is the only party here that had the power to defer these elections and did not do so.
Shiv, if TRS had the power to defer the election, then definitely the party could have, because anyhow this party is going to win the election. So the majority of this party would further increase with the participation of more number of voters in the electoral process. Number two, the state government gave the consent in the month of January. I would like to correct Shri Krishna Sagar when he was saying that according to Rule 77, after the state government gives its consent and its preparedness once to the State Election Commission, it cannot be revoked. They can't take a U-turn.
I find that very hard to believe. I find that very hard to believe. These are not normal circumstances, Nitish. I don't think you understand how the country works. I am not an expert. I am not an expert in election norms and election laws. But I find it hard to believe that when a country is facing 3.6 lakh new COVID-19 cases per day, that the SEC will say, sorry TRS, you have already approved this election, now you can't change your mind. I find it hugely difficult to believe that that could be the point. But I think, sir, some of these rules go out of the window. I'm sorry. When we are facing a national health emergency, I am sure some of these things can easily be set aside.
20 seconds.
Yeah, 20 seconds. 20 seconds have to end. Krishna Sagar.
Yeah. See, Shiv, Sravan has taken a higher moral ground and said we're all culprits, but I wish to disagree that, it is not that the politicians' compulsion is elections. It's a democratic compulsion. And even United States went into an election at the peak of Corona, COVID-19. So, it is a democratic compulsion that when local bodies or when any elected body expires, then the elections have to be called. Otherwise, you will be in suspended animation. The democracy will fail. So we are only doing our duty. Please understand. Do not blame us. Do not put us to wall.
I think the higher moral ground.
Shivji,
10 seconds, Sravanji, I'm out of time.
Conduct elections in time. So when you have time, that's a different story. TRS had time. That is the problem.
Shravanji, 10 seconds to you. Last word.
Even to fulfill the constitutional obligation of conducting the municipal polls in time, there is still 5 more months of time. State Election Commission and TRS have colluded, unfortunately, to fulfill their political
I think the last word is that there is complicity on all sides. At where it began, I think we may all agree here. The TRS says, no, we are not responsible because we gave consent in January and it could not be changed, which I think is bunkum. But whether it is a moral high ground, whether there is a need for introspection by all political parties about these horrible compulsions even during a national health emergency is something perhaps we need to all think about. Thank you very much, Krishna Sagar, Sravan Dasoju and Nitish V for being with me here on 5 Live on the back of those huge crowds. But
hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.